This is Harvey Hubbell Show and Tell, and we're here with Nora. You know, I'm dyslexic, and I could try to say your last name. What's your last name?
I'll help you out with that. Chahbazi.
Chahbazi. And tell, I mean, I fell in love with you because you're one of the stars of The Truth About Reading. So tell me who you are and what do you do?
All right. Well, I am the founder of EBLI, which stands for Evidence-Based Literacy Instruction. It is a system of teacher training and student instruction that helps to get anybody of any age or ability level to their highest potential in reading, writing, and spelling. And I came to this in a very atypical way. My background, my education is in nursing. I was a neonatal intensive care nurse for a decade until my daughter, my middle daughter in the 90s, was a struggling reader. You know, many of us change our life because of that. And so I ended up teaching her how to read, which is a whole story in itself. And then kind of accidentally got trained in a program called phonographics, and also accidentally opened a reading center, another story. And then I trained a lot of teachers in schools and coached in schools. And after about 4 years, I created EBLI because phonographics was more focused on just really decoding and challenging for, you know, it was intended for one-on-one instruction. And I really wanted to devote my time and energy as much as possible to classroom teachers, and especially K-3 classroom teachers, to kind of put a fence at the top of the cliff instead of all the ambulances we have at the bottom, with the tremendous need that we need for, you know, that we have for remediation, because so many, we have so many low-level subliterate people of all ages now, not just now, but it seems to be snowballing somewhat. So anyway, yeah, that's what I do. And so I'm, you know, we, you know, say our tagline is teaching the world to read. And I feel very strongly about that. And my daughter's struggles, and any parent or any person who has experienced that, really, it puts this burning fire in your belly to ensure that other people don't experience that.
Well, I see that with a lot of mama bears. I mean, the whole entire group, Decoding Dyslexia, started with these mama bears, and it looks bad. It looks bad. Something bad's happening, but then something good happens, and you know, the whole entire movement. And your daughter's reading now.
She is 34 years, just turned 34, and she was in second grade at this time. And she went to school. You know, she was in the National Honor Society in high school. Went to college with honors. Phenomenal reader, phenomenal speller. Yeah,
I love it. Well, when we saw your film, I don't know how many times I've seen The Truth About Reading. I've seen it a lot. And last time I saw it, I was with you in South by Southwest. I was with you and John and the family, the group. You had your DP, you had your director there. You had some family members. You had wife and daughter there. So it was fun. But I really loved the scene where you know, the scenes, and when you're working with that gentleman who you really moved him. That was like a short amount of time.
He was here, from a Tuesday to a Saturday. He left Saturday morning, but it was 11 hours of instruction. He'd been diagnosed, he's from Vancouver, Canada, as like the worst dyslexic they'd ever seen. And he had suffered a lot of stress and anxiety. Actually, his bowel burst from so much cortisol, from so much, you know, extended and, you know, persistent stress over his life. But he'd become a multimillionaire, and by anybody's estimation would have been looked at as very successful, but not in his mind, of course, because that lack of literacy, you know, it's a very traumatic experience. And yeah, so that was really interesting because, you know, Nick, the producer, the director of the film, said, if you want me to do this, you have to, first of all, you won't have any say in what's in it. He told John and I that. You will have to raise $500,000 yourselves, like John, who is 84, and me. And whoever gives any money won't have any say what's in this movie. And you need to find somebody who's an adult that's very successful that will allow me to teach them EBLI in front of cameras and have it all filmed. And I was like, ooh, that made the first two things seem easy. So yeah.
Oh, well, it's pretty.
So, and it was in the middle of COVID, just to make it more entertaining. We started the whole thing.
But the reason I don't like you, I love you. The reason because you do all of those impossible tasks, But then, what are you doing on May 21st? This is crazy because Mark Seidenberg has been in 2 films we made, and Devin Kearns is he's a UConn guy, the Yale guy,
Yeah.
and so he's friends with me too. And you're going to go see him. We're going to do some work with him. I'm going to go to Malta with Devin in a couple weeks. So when you see him,
Wow.
he's going with us. So the Structured Linguistic Literacy Summit. Tell us about that. Who's the audience? Who's
the audience? Is anybody? Yes, it is parents, teachers, administrators, psychologists, homeschoolers, community members, anyone interested in effective, efficient literacy instruction and a highly literate society, basically. And how this all came about is very also atypical and interesting. Donna Heitmanick, she and I had been, connecting together for quite some time, since there was a journal or a magazine. It's called Distinct Magazine. It's about dyslexia and all. And they did a whole, one of their full issues was on structured linguistic literacy. So they had about 13 different articles in there. And Donna and I was very passionate about trying to get the word out about this kind of instruction. So she and I would, connect and talk a lot about how can you do this. So she decided to do monthly little webinars on her site with each of the people who had done the, an article in that magazine. And then we said, we need to get together. We need to get a group somehow that we can together elevate this structured linguistic literacy. So we invited other people like Marnie Ginsberg from Reading Simplified and John Walker from Sounds Right and Nikki Pratty, who started the structured linguistic literacy page. And there's about 8 of us. And we, Donna's idea, this all was her, we need to do a summit. We need to do a conference. We need to do something. So we decided we were going to do an online summit, and it was going to be a day. And we started doing it. We're not an official group. We're kind of a collaborative that, is passionate. And so we realized that we'd bitten off a lot more that we can chew with that. So then we found that you can get a consultant to help with this. And it ended up, there were so many people, this consultant said, usually you have a hard time finding enough speakers. Well, we got 35 speakers before we even started going. Our problem was we'd invited way too many people, and even more people had wanted to speak and be a part of it. So we got this consultant and then kind of got on track and really have planned this in the last 6 months. And it's the cool thing about it is it's all virtual. I mean, we have presenters, Dr. Pamela Stowes from Australia. We have presenters from, England. We've got, from all over the world, really. And so it's all, right now we're recording for the month and a half, ahead of the summit, where we're doing the recordings of all the presentations. So there's about 5 of us, myself is one, Donna's another, and there's 3 others who are hosts of each of the 35 presenters. There's 5 keynotes, 6 panels, and then the rest are individual presenters that do that. And people can watch it for free. It's from June 24th through 28th. We're in the process of getting the Truth About Reading so that people will be able to see it for free over a 9 or 10 day period. And they can watch all of these 35 presentations with, like you say, Dr. Kearns, Dr. Seidenberg, Dr. Snow, we got Lindsay Kemeny, Trey Hedrick, a whole bunch of, another one, I think, in Dr. Ware, Sharon Ware, I believe, is in Connecticut with you too, Harvey. But we've got a lot of great people, all the way from professors and researchers to parents and all. And so there will be 7 presentations each day, and anyone can join for free and watch a presentation, which will be free at the time. Like if you're on Tuesday at 9 o'clock, you want to watch something, it's going to be free during that time and then 24 hours after. So people can access it for free, or they can do an upgrade to get access to it forever, basically, to all the recordings. Yeah.
So they can watch it for free. But me, I'm a simple kind of guy. I like taking notes and recording. I'm a big recording kind of guy. I don't know if you know that about me. And and so this would be a great thing in the library for school psychologists, decision makers. I'm a big decision maker. We have to influence the decision makers. That's your buddy Donna too. She's always trying to get to. That's one way that we can help the people who want to help the people who want the help.
Well, there's so many more people who are interested, and even with the science of reading, of course, and because the structured linguistic literacy is a different, way of a different approach. It's a paradigm shift from, traditional phonics and that type of thing. But so many people are hungry for learning and hungry for what can we do so that these millions of kids who then turn into teens, who then turn into adults that are suffering because of sub-literacy and lack of literacy, so that we can stem that tide and stop that, turn that around so it doesn't have to happen anymore. And so the time is right.
How about micro-credentials on this? Is micro-credentials?
This one, we did not have the time. We were trying to get CEUs for it and micro-credentials, but we didn't have the time. But you do get the platform that we're on. It tracks how much time a person who's signed up, how much time they watch. And then at the end of the summit, they get a certificate for how many hours that they watch that they can use as PD. So that's another cool free perk.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that professional development on this, where it seems the enlightened decision maker, be it the school superintendent, the curriculum CEO, or whatever they're called, or the board of education, or whoever in whichever system is going to want to get this knowledge. You guys have worked really hard to get these great speakers, these great keynotes, and these other speakers. So you guys did the heavy lifting, and so these guys have the ability to be able to share that with their faculty.
Absolutely.
So how much is this afterwards? It's free for those days.
It's free right now. It's $67 for all 35 presentations, which of course is a steal, and that's up until the first day that it starts. And after it starts on June 24th. The price increases to $97, and that's how much it will be forever, basically. So a 35-person conference for less than $100.
Yeah.
You can't beat that.
And you never have to get out of your pajamas and your slippers.
I know. Isn't that the best
you can
part?
wear your slippers and just hang out with the coolest people in the world.
Yep.
Isn't that cool?
Exactly.
That is.
How does it get? It doesn't get any better than that, right?
The world is cool when you, So, you absorb all of this stuff, and then you get to go into the classroom and do it.
Yeah. I mean, I've done a few I've hosted a few already, and I mean, it just blows. Like Leslie Loud, she does Think SRSD, and Lindsay Kemeny, who has a book, and she's talking about some of our Ebley stuff is in her book, and she talks about that, and Bruce Howlett that talks a lot about language too. It was just, I mean, I'm listening to these presentations because after they're done, then we can ask questions if there's time. And it's blowing my mind. I'm like, I can't get over how much I've learned. And Donna hosted Mark Seidenberg, and she's like, everybody's mind's going to be blown on that. I mean, they're just astounding. And that's everybody. It's been across the board. We're all like, whoa, we cannot believe, what we're all learning from all these people too. Very exciting.
Well, my tagline is I'm the dumbest guy in the room. I really am. I mean, I literally just, but it's what I do for work is what you guys are doing right now too. It's like, when I talked to Mark Seidenberg, I talked to Mark during COVID, and he was just like lonely. Nobody was talking to him or something. He never left his living room. So I was like, and I always have all these crazy questions, cavemen and language and stuff like that. And so it really is amazing to what you're offering people. The person who doesn't know Mark Seidenberg can actually spend an afternoon or an evening, an hour with him, and they can have popcorn. They can be eating
wine. They can have wine.
They can have wine. They could be eating ravioli with Mark Seidenberg, which is pretty cool. And Devin Kearns. These guys are like The other thing is about these neuroscientists and about the science of reading. These guys are entertainers. I mean, they have to be now when they present, but they give us these thought-provoking talks.
Right.
So that's pretty darn.
Lots of brilliance and lots of food for thought. Change is, we all want change a lot of times, especially when it comes to improving literacy and all, but actually doing the change is hard, right? It's hard for all of us. And so I think that educating yourself and learning more and having more, things to look into and ponder and, that whole lifelong learning thing, I think is really critical, because this whole thing is, sometimes it's like some people are like, wait a minute, if this is different, here we went from this to this, and now you wanted us to go to this, and why are we even talking about this? But it's because we are constantly wanting to evolve for the sake of children, right? And adults who struggle with reading. So that's really our motivation. And people also think, how odd is it that you have this collaborative of people who all, 4 of us are program providers or creators of an SLL type of program. So we really are direct competitors of each other. And people are like, that's just odd that you would collaborate together for years, to move this mission literally forward. And so,
well, our regular listeners here know that one of the things that Ed Wilson said to me a while ago, Ed and Barbara Wilson, is, it's collaboration, not competition. And, even when you guys have a film, I have a film, Kareem has a film, but it's like, and we love, and I've talked to John about this, following where the other film played, because you have an audience that's going to see it. And what I want to do in our world is just make advocates that are, and when we all get down to talk about who are our decision makers, they're lifelong learners, they're the school superintendent, or they're the elected officials. Don't forget those guys. And
yes,
they don't have a job if we don't elect them. Remember that. If they're the education, but the Board of Education we've talked about, the teachers who care, the parents who care, and those lifelong learners. So, we're all in it in the same way. And when you're looking at the numbers of how poorly we're doing in education and reading, why wouldn't we all band together? And why wouldn't we? There's enough stuff to keep us busy all day long. And when I used to, what I heard all the time decades ago when I started in the dyslexia movement was like, hey, we just want to put ourselves out of business. If we didn't have to teach this stuff, I don't know, maybe everybody's going to go off fishing or something like that in the Mediterranean. I don't know. But,
off to one of those huts.
Off one of
those huts like you were. That's what I would like to do.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, it's not bad. And you know what?
Come on.
Well, they actually beat us in reading in Belize. So, so we got a lot of work to do here. So it's going to be a while before we're out there fishing. So what else? Tell me something else about this. This is. We know who's coming. We know who we're going to be meeting. We talk to us a little bit about the focus on what everybody talks to these guys about different stuff. But there's going to be there's science, there's stories, and success. What else? What kind of? Tell me some of the ones that you talked about. Give us a little peek.
Yes. Well, and the thread through it is all, again, speech first or structured linguistic literacy instruction, or things that support that. So we've got a few panels. One of them is going to be a panel of educators who were in the Truth About Reading, and they're going to be talking about it after, because we're going to have that available for people. So that's exciting. There's also there's a panel for EBLI, for Sounds Right, for Reading Simplified, of schools that have implemented. I'm like, the EBLI school I'm excited about. We have a curriculum director, assistant superintendent, a principal, and a teacher who are all going to present about shifting. They shifted from balanced literacy to EBLI. And they're going to talk about that and do kind of a Q&A. The Reading Simplified, they're going to talk them shifting from traditional phonics to Reading Simplified. And then there's a Sounds Right school panel, Lynbrook in New York, talking about their experience. And they're a few years in now. And what that looks like, so people don't have to reinvent the wheel, or, they can follow the path that others have done. And they're going to talk about things that went well, things that were challenges, the experiences they had, the outcomes for the students. These are school level. Then we have homeschool parents who have really had kids who have been suffering for a long time. And this happens a lot with EBLI, actually, is we have parents who get trained in EBLI to help their own child. And that's the intention that they have, is to help their own child or children. And then they're like, wait a minute, I can't keep this to myself. I'm going to become a private practitioner and help other people's children too. So, and then Dr. Sharon Ware, who's from Connecticut, University of Connecticut, I believe it is. And she's going to talk about how she teaches structured linguistic literacy to her master's of ed students, and how she teaches them to infuse it regardless of whatever curriculum that they have. And there's just such a array of different experiences in different people who have not just the researchers, not just the stories, right? The successes too, but because everyone is at wherever your learning journey is, we're all at different places, right? So this is going to really touch on whatever your learning journey is, or wherever you're at. If you're brand new out of college, or if you've been teaching for 30 years, or if you're a parent, or if you're a school board member, whatever your knowledge level is, this is going to have something for everybody with all of that. You're also talking about spelling and morphology and writing and all of those kinds of things. So it's really comprehensive and really extensive, as far as it's not just everybody's going to talk about the same things. A lot of different facets of all parts and pieces of literacy.
I'm going to tell
with
you,
the focus on the outcomes for kids.
I'm going to tell you why it's important to buy this, because, well, first of all, I say the same stuff all the time. I'm dyslexic, and if you studied dyslexics as long as I have, it's like like they have I have so many libraries at my house. I'm kind of like making up for lost time, and I just love these books, and I know I have this thing called the internet, and I could find out information online, but I might not. I was thinking about this today. I had like books from the 1960s over at my father's house. I still I clean them off, and I have them on my shelf, and I pull stuff out, and I'm learning about the French Indian Wars, and I could look it up on the internet, but it gives me a place to. It says, hey, start studying here, because you said we're all at different places, we're coming from different places, and I think the big one is the lifelong learner. So we're talking about investing, and we're talking about investing in knowledge, and so there's 40 minutes in a day, but you could have this course, and whichever level you're at, because I always say education, teachers are like educational ninjas. Not only are we at different places, and not only educators at different places, but each of the kids walk in. How many kids are in your classroom? 16, 24, 36,
30.
30.
Yeah, crazy.
And you got to figure out where each of these kids are. And it used to be like, hey, not those kids. We can't. Now we know. Through the science of reading, we know we can get 95% of these kids.
Yes.
And so that's like, I forgot. I got to tell you something. I'm getting out of the film business anyhow. And I'm getting out, and I'm looking for investors for an airline. I'm going to start an airline. It's called Good Enough Airways.
Oh, great.
Yeah. It's a good
I'll
idea.
be hopping on that.
Yeah, hop it. 33% of our planes will get there. Just like the reading scores in our country, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we have these educators, your audience, and I'm policymakers, I got it. Policymakers want to know what their educators know, but these educators that are gonna at nighttime on a Friday, Saturday night, this is fun for some people. It's fun for us. You crack open that bottle of wine, and you turn on Mark Seidenberg. Like, I never thought of that before. Really?
See?
So I think.
Gosh, imagine after. There's 39.5 hours of, with the panels are 90 minutes, and the other presentations are up to an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, and then we've got the movie. So it's a lot of hours of time. But again, it's summer, and teachers, it's a little bit more laid back, and you don't have to go listen to all of them. You can pick and choose the ones that you're like, what, this applies to me.
And you can come.
So that's really the beauty of the summit piece of it.
Yeah, and you can come back and get them. You can get them again when you're ready for that one, and you can begin to pick it up. It is like a library. So you say there's 30. How many hours?
39.5 hours.
39. So I'm really bad at my math, but if it's $90 for 30, it's like this is like a steal for each one of these things, and you get to keep them forever. They're like your keepsakes.
Right. Yep.
They're like the books in my library.
I mean,
right?
Yeah, that's right. That you can come back. I mean, you can watch them you look at them for one time, like taking it out of the library, which is fine for some people. But what we're expecting is that, Mark Seidenberg is our first person on the first day. And then we've got a lot of great, Marnie Ginsburg's going to be talking about the research, alignment and all of that. And I think that people will realize that I probably can't watch 5 days of 7, plus hours a day, and B, I want to rewatch these, right? How when you watch, like The Truth About Reading for me, because I've been on several panels for it, and it was probably 9 or 10 times before I didn't cry when I was watching it, A, and B, I sat in on 2/3 of the interviews. there was over 100 interviews and maybe a third of them got in the movie, but I knew what people were saying. I knew I had a good idea of kind of what was going to be in this, but of course I hadn't seen the film or anything. And every time, the second time I watched, I said to Nick, the director, "Why did you change so much in that movie? Why did you do that?" And he said, "I didn't change a single thing." There were 3 people at the second screening that were at Beverly Hills for the premiere, and all 3 of them said the same thing. "Why do you change so many things?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And probably until about the 6th time, I thought, he's changed something. He added, that wasn't in there before. Or I picked up different things that different people said. So I think that repeated, watching and listening, once you've, processed a certain amount, then you have space filled up in your, cognition to add more to it. So I think that's another benefit for purchasing them.
You said
the VIP. The other thing is there's benefits, like there's perks. Like, for example, if you sign up for the $67 now or $97 after, during the thing, you can get 20% off Ebley training, which is our big Ebley training, or 20% off Think SRSD, which is a writing system, or Sounds Right has a 20% off. So if you upgrade, you get like $700-800 worth of free perks too. So lots of good things for all of it.
Well, that's good. And I also think, reading teachers night out, I still think they all come over together and like, hey, I just watched this. Let's watch Devin Curran's and do it. And it's fun. You can hang out and watch Devin.
Right.
I would watch Devin a couple times.
And learn some stuff and then talk about it, because that's another thing, both with movies and with things. I'm always listening to literacy podcasts and all, but it's just like, I want to talk to somebody about that. So I do have somebody that, she sends me podcasts and I send her podcasts, and, where you can have a conversation about, what'd you think about this piece? Or I just listened to one 2 days ago, and I said, Donna and Jen and, this group of people, I'm like, wait a minute. She said all these things that were so on track, but she said this one thing that was the complete opposite, I thought, of those things. Will you listen to this and tell me if that's what you got out of it? And then, we had a conversation about it, too, which also helps deepen our learning, right?
See, but because once you're teaching it, it's going through a different channel in your head. That was very scientific of me, wasn't it? So,
yeah.
So the interesting thing here is you have this library. You can talk to people about it. But for the advocates, when you're talking about who your audience is, for the advocates, be it the science teacher or advocates, just like our advocacy toolkit, we also have these same tools where people can go and show these things. But you can say after you watch it the first time, you watch it with your friend, the educator, the next time, and say, hey, we should bring this up and show this, when we're going back to school, and show this to the reading department, show it to Board of Education. And that's 2024 of us, of how we're all used to it after the pandemic. We're all used to talking to each other via computers. We're sending this information back.
Yeah.
And big thank you to you guys for setting up this conference and getting all of these experts together and channeling them. It's like herding the great cows from here to there, like a cattle drive. You're doing the big cattle drive here. So,
right.
Okay, so what else do you want everybody to know that we haven't talked about? We talked about a lot, but is there anything we missed in the perfect world? What did we miss?
No, just watch. I know that Donna is highlighting. I am on my Ebley page and she is on her Science of Reading page. We have little meme kind of things where each presenter or each panel, where it talks about their the title of their thing and the time they're going to be and all of that type of thing, to kind of keep it in people's consciousness, but also for them to see, oh, I've always wanted to listen to, this person speak or that person speak too. So you can kind of see, there's this whole piece, and there's a website. That's another thing. There's a website. It's 2024.sllsummit.com. Or if they type in sllsummit.com, they'll get to that too. And it has all the speakers on there, and it has the name of their presentation and a description of their presentation and their picture and all those good things too. So that's another spot. And you can see our collaborative. There's an About Us that tells about the 8 or 10 or whatever of us who have worked together all these months to make this happen. I mean, we had a struggle because we're like, we don't have an official organization. How do we do this? Which really was, quite honestly, a challenge when you think about all of the logistics of it all and the bookkeeping and all of the things that have to go with that. But it must be meant to be, because we made it happen. Nobody is benefiting money wise, as far as there's not some organization or some company or anything that's getting um, the income from people who upgrade. That's going into us doing it even better next year, and maybe even paying some of the people who are going to be speaking and all. So yeah, we want to just keep paying it forward.
Well, no, that's great, and well, it is our weird collective of we the I'm hardly an educator. I don't I just make the bomb. I don't drop the bomb or one of. I'm just a filmmaker. All my friends are smart and know so. But so if
I
truth,
think you dropped some good bombs in your films,
well,
Harvey. I don't know.
I do bombed a couple things, but truth be told, Nora, this is really funny. But I know that I was meeting up and talking with you, but before I saw the Accelerate Literacy logo, and I was, I know that I was talking with you. I talked with Don. I'm talking with you, and then I see Mark Seidenberg, and I saw the thing that you were saying, the Accelerate Literacy. And it was like, then I started putting them together. I'm like, oh, okay. But again, I'm just gonna repeat what I've said before, and I don't want to bore people. But this is one of these great things about living in our time and age, and caring about what I mean. In the beginning of Decoding Dyslexia, people were saying, hey, things aren't moving fast. I'm like, well, they are moving a little faster than they were in 1964 when I was in kindergarten.
Yeah, which was not at all.
Yeah, which was not at all. Which they were tying our hands, our left hand behind our back, and teaching us to write right-handed, and so things are moving, and I think people have to embrace all this stuff, and I really can't thank you guys enough for all the hard work you guys did and brought everybody together and making this all happen. And you guys are pioneers out there, and so this is year one, and it's going to be year two, and all the more reason to collect all the volumes.
Yeah, that's right. You'll be able to, yeah. And we keep thinking, oh, this would have been great, or this person would have given it, this topic would have been good. It's just, there's so much, and we want it to be succinct. We want it to be simple and digestible for everybody too. So all of those things we have considered as we've gone through this whole thing. So it's been exciting. It's been pretty taxing, really, but it's exciting because there is movement. Because as you say, there were a lot of years, even in the 26 years I've been doing this, there have been a lot of years until recently, and I say thank you, Emily Hanford, to be honest, for the most part, because I know she's my hero, and she's the one who really started waking people up to like, what is because we're all just doing our thing where we're doing our thing, right? And I didn't come up through the education system, so my experience is really very different. But I think that again, there's always more to learn, and until we have, to me, I'm like at 100% proficient. Every person who can talk can learn to be a proficient reader, and so even on the film, Nick asked me what percent of people I thought could learn to read, and I said 100. He's like, you can't say 100, and I'm like, why can't I say 100? So I did say 95 to 100. But if somebody's not, but even we have somebody, Ann Sullivan, who does phonics for special needs, that's a structured linguistic literacy that teaches nonverbal students to read too. So you don't even have to be able to speak. But so maybe but in most schools and classrooms, 100% of the kids can become highly proficient, and they can do it quick, especially if we get them young in those younger grades before they've had the chance to create those bad habits of the misreading, the misspelling, all of the things that then you have to undo the bad habits and then redo with teaching them how to do it accurately. So it's possible. This is a problem that we can solve, and we can get to that 95 to 100%. But together, and doing it in a united way. I know in your Hopesville film, you talk about, the reading wars. Do we need a war? This is not about us adults. It's just not about us adults. This is about the highest and best for the children who become adults that are then traumatized from their experiences. And to me, that's just, knowing John Corcoran so well and David Chalk so well and all the adults I've taught, but also all the kids and the trauma. I have a reading center also, along with teaching teachers, and walking through our door and on our screens from all over the world, traumatized kids that are they have such angst and anxiety that's a whole nother thing that has to be, nurtured and addressed to help them work through that trauma, to be able to get to that place of, of the reading. And it's just heartbreaking.
Well, you say bad habits, necessary. But you also talk about trauma and low self-esteem. and
Yep.
low self-esteem. But
Yep.
if it happens and it's generational, I mean, I always say that there's the
Yes.
parents that say, "Honey, we just don't do good in school," and if the
Yep.
kid begins to do it, but they don't realize that there's a way to unlock it. So listen,
For the parents too.
no, for the
The
parents
parents
too.
and the kids. I've
Yeah,
got
and you get the
those kinds
parents
of
reading.
things to do.
You
Yeah.
can get the parents reading too. So
Yeah.
on that, on closing, how do people contact you if they wanted to reach out to you on screen or come knock on your door? But
On our door.
yeah, how
Yeah,
do they do it on
we,
screen?
I would say if they're curious about Ebley in general, at ebley.com, we have a website. We also have a Ebley community Facebook page that's trained people and not trained people, curious people. The Structured Linguistic Literacy Speech to Print Facebook page is, the collective of all of the different kinds of programs and people that teach structured linguistic literacy. And then the sllsummit.com, type that 2024 at the beginning so that we'll have a 2025 and we'll be able to differentiate. But either one of those will go to the SLL site where you can look at all the speakers and all that's going on there. So yeah, if you want to email me, you can email me at Nora, Nora at Ebley, ebli.com. And I let my two favorite topics, quite honestly. I have 5 little grandchildren that were born within 2.5 years of each other, all 5 of them, and the oldest just turned 4. So I talk about them and literacy. Those are my two. I'm kind of a little only bi-dimensional, really. I need to get out more, but I love talking about literacy and improving literacy. And anybody who's interested in action, I'm not real big at talking about it more. I don't want to admire the problem so much anymore without action. So the summit is action, and everything that we do is with an eye toward action of improving student outcomes.
Nora, you're a rock star.
Thank you, Harvey. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for all the hard work you did. So check back in with us when this is all said and done, and let's get ready for next year.
I know. It's going to. We only planned for like I said, 4 or 5 months on this one, so a whole year to plan for next time. It's going to be epic.
All right. Well, we appreciate you being here and talking with us, and we're looking forward to hearing how this all happens and turns out.
Very good. Thanks so much.
Thank you, my friend. Peace.